Hello lovelies, today is Monday the 23rd of August 2021 and this video is going to cover a lot of stuff, of course, because we've gone into Virgo energy today and we've also gone into the second of the Maya 13 moon calendar. We've gone into lunar moon today. So lots to talk about, of course, and we are on day 5 of the Yellow Star Wavespell. Day 5 being the Mastery Day and Yellow Star being the very last 13-day Wavespell of the 260-day cycle. So we're completing what began on the 15th of December, which was initiated in Sagittarius energy. And we have gone through our akashic record, our old story, become very aware of what that is. And now we're going to be going into a different dynamic with the full moon in Aquarius we had yesterday at 29 degrees. So that's the anaretic degree, and that is the soul degree. So in order for us to transit into the next consciousness, we have to come to completion with the 29 degrees. And if you've got 29 degrees in your chart, which lots of lovely ladies that I've connected to recently have, and these are gateway points, because when you add the two numbers together, 2 and 9, you get 11, which in the Mayan calendar is the letting go number, the dissonance number, cognitive dissonance, what doesn't align with the new Aquarian mindset and way of being that's coming in on the planet, which is being emotionally free, as in healing our emotional stories and coming into our emotional center, having emotional intelligence, and as a result of that, becoming solution focused. Another way to look at number 11 is it comes into number 2. So for the next 28 days, we're going to be focusing on what we learned in the first 28 days. And this is how these systems really help us to get focused on who we are as an individual, as an expression of the divine, and looking at that bigger picture of how we've been very much in balance in terms of the patriarchy, the masculine energy, simply to evolve on that level and find out what works, what doesn't work. In particular, what doesn't work around being in balance, having power struggles, and what we've experienced on planet Earth over many thousands of years during this repression of the sacred feminine. And of course, when I talk about that, what does that mean to you? Each of us has our own perspective. That's the key thing to understand. That's the basis of everything, really, and especially with this Aquarian understanding. Each of us is a unique expression of the divine that has come here at this time to be that expression. And so in my perspective, we have come in, we've chosen to come in to evolve humanity. That's why we're here. It's a conscious choice that we've made before this lifetime, and that in this lifetime we are an expression of that latest version of that ancestral dynamic, so that we can find out how that ticks, how that works experientially, and then start to evolve from that place. And that means that we've all had a rough trip to begin with. The start of our life has been challenging in some way, because that's where we're all at in terms of the human being ancestral storylines. And as we can see on the wider picture, the world stage, the giant mystery school that we're in, we can see exactly where these stories are. And this is key to Virgo energy. We're in step 0 today in terms of the sun energy. So again, it's seeing what mindsets have created this state of being on planet Earth, and how so many human beings are not connected to their source energy. They don't feel grounded, they don't feel connected to planet Earth. They are destroying the Earth through actions, and we've all been a part of this in some way with the consumer pattern going on. And it's recognizing how we personally have been doing that trip, often from a place of ignorance and simply not being aware of what's going on, and sometimes not knowing what on earth to do about it. What can we do when so many people, when there's a huge majority of people still who are unawake, unaware, unconscious, and stuck in their old fear story and projecting that out onto everyone and everything. This is, of course, is what Red Moon is about. Red Moon's shadow is about not being emotionally aware, intelligent, conscious, and just projecting that story out, because I offer you that is how it works. And that's been my understanding over many years now of we are a human projection story. And so, as I always talk about in these videos, it's about understanding how to clear that story on all levels out of this current incarnation. And then we start living a different storyline, because that is where we begin as an initiate. Where we begin is healing that human ancestral story so that we become free of it and we unlock the secrets. So today, in terms of the calendar, so we're in the last 13 green strip. What's resonating with survival, remember, and what is resonating with deep esoteric energy, so an awareness, because we're plugged into source. So in order to be plugged into source, we have to remove the conditioned mindset and create one that is free. Again, it's clear around Virgo energy, and especially today on that 0 step, getting clear of the old mindset. So here we are, and we're on the 12th Mayan sign, which is Yellow Human. Who are we as a human being? We are the Philosopher's Stone. You know, what's going on for us as an individual reveals the mindset, reveals the emotional story. And of course, we can go deeper into understanding of that with the astrology and the cosmology. That really helps us in case we've got any doubts. Often we do have a lot of doubts, especially as women, around often having been in narcissistic relationships and being gaslighted. That's very much happening at the moment on planet Earth as well. So this is key to understand. So Yellow Human is key to being on planet Earth as well. All of the Mayan signs have planets that they are connected to, and Blue Hand and Yellow Human, which are parts of the same tribe, which is my tribe, is about planet Earth. So it's how we express that, how we embody that on planet Earth. So again, day 5s are about mastery of the previous 4 days. Yesterday was blue self-existing monkey, the 11th Mayan sign, the dissonant sign, letting go of the childhood wounding story to get clear, become transparent. And the planet is Venus. And that is twinned with the 8th Mayan sign, which is Yellow Star, which is the 13-day process that we're in. That also has the planet of Venus. And so with the full moon in Aquarius at 29 degrees, we can see what's needing to shift around our individuation, being authentic, being free of the conditioned mindset, being emotionally free of story through healing it is the key, and then being solution focused from that clear space, because otherwise we are stuck in the old storyline. And of course, we're all in that on some level. As we come down to the bottom here, we have got the last portal of this cycle, which is yellow cosmic sun. And the planet is Pluto, and it's what needs to shift of the Plutonian story. Wherever that is in your sign is key for you. On a bigger picture scale, we've got Pluto in Capricorn transit on the planet, and it's going retrograde. It's going over the old storyline right now. We've got a big event coming up next year in America, for example, where we've got the Pluto return. And so we're going to see the next level, the next cycle of that around the Civil War. Once you start to understand astrology, first of all, you can connect to bigger picture cycles and understand why things are happening when they are. And you can also start to bring that back into the micro of I, which is the most important thing, because that's why I am here, is to work through my story and rewire it. And then through me, I create a different way of being. I create a different holograph, and that changes the world. And that's the essential learning now, is about that. That's the order of things. I become clear, become healed, more and more and more. Each cycle I become more consciously aware. I become a conscious creator. I become clear about what is serving me on a mindset. And so literally how to manifest, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So let's go to the codes today. So now we're in Virgo at 0 degrees in terms of the sun. And the next 260-day cycle is going to be in Virgo in this first decan. So this is really key. So set an intention today around what you want to create for that 260-day cycle, and ask the universe to show you, because today is a powerful day for connecting to that energy. The more that you start to learn about frameworks of healing, and in particular clearing your old story, and for me, as I always say, emotional freedom technique is the only thing that I have found that works very specifically in this way to clear this old story. And if we don't get clear of the old story, we'll see it keep coming around, because the universe wants us to get clear to create this new framework. And although you may have done many years of different healing frameworks, in my experience, having had lots of clients who've come in believing that they've cleared that, when we've worked on that, it is evident that EFT clears it. Now, I'm not saying this to sell EFT per se. I'm not saying this to sell my services per se. I'm saying this because this is the solution, and it works, and it will change your life. And my interest in that is when each one of us does this work, then the whole world changes. That is where I'm coming from. I find it very tough to watch people suffering through their old stories and not committing to their process, making that shift. And I know that's perfect as well, for each person is where they are and has chosen to do whatever they're going to do in this lifetime. And the paradox is, I believe that we get to choose our destiny. And so the more that we come into this healing space, the more that we get to choose a different reality. I believe it's limitless. And I believe that there is an amazing power that we are part of. It's not separate from us. None of the story that's happening right now is separate from us. And I don't have fear about the storyline because I know it has to happen. I also know that whenever we are feeling something about this storyline that's going on, it's always connected to our personal story, our ancestral story. And once people really start to understand this, they know that the more energy they put into their own personal story, the more that they learn about how to stay in their emotional center and release all of their triggers, they become more and more aware that this is a gift that is coming in, that people come in to help us clear and get free of the old storyline. So it takes a while to get there because we've been so conditioned. And what happens though, as you start to really focus on these frameworks, is your headless chicken moments, your fear, false evidence appearing real, start to get smaller. The more stories we clear on a personal level, the more our holograph changes. There are no shortcuts to this. It is all in divine timing as well. So once we become aware of the circles and cycles, we start to go into the wow space because it is wow. We also realize that radically we are doing this to ourselves because of our thoughts and our beliefs. And again, I'm sharing this perspective. I don't mean any irreverence, any disrespect to anybody who's having a very difficult journey or they're struggling with key diseases, which I know causes huge suffering for them and for everyone else that is involved. I have huge compassion for humanity, and this is why I share what I share, because I'm passionate about people learning this so they don't suffer in the same way. We've had a huge, big trip with humanity so far. And again, some of this suffering comes from ignorance. Some of it comes with a malicious intent as well. So that is key as well, to separate those things out. Okay, so I'm just going to share the moon energy today. I'm learning lots of new things technology-wise, and again, this is so key for me, and I know I use this word a lot. It's a gateway point. Many things, including all the technology on my Mac, getting up to speed with doing my website, etc. This doesn't come naturally to me. and I'm learning it. And I'm also recognizing that in doing that, often this is a bigger picture pattern for people as well, where people aren't being trained in things. There's a lot of not having time, we're catching up as well, and we're often living chaotic lives when we're going through this personal journey. So often I know that I make choices based on ignorance and unaware of just how to do the basic simple things that other people can do in a heartbeat. And I could pay to have all of this done by somebody else, and then I'd be dependent on them and I wouldn't get the learning. And for me personally, this is the way that I live my life, is I like to be independent and learn how to do it for myself. And then I can get other people involved because I'm coming from a place of knowledge and awareness. And often that means that I'm going through a very frustrating time. And often I have a bit of a flip out just before I get the breakthrough. And it's being able to stay there and feel everything and uncover what has created this child point in me where I want everything to happen immediately and now. And again, part of our conditioning at the moment. So here we go. Hopefully this is going to work. It's also having the courage to try things, and risk it and think, oh my goodness, I might lose it. This is so key to this time at the moment. So we've got Pisces at 11, and this matches up again with number 2. A high crumbling wall. It's part of a ruin and covered with ivy. Power is stored in the earth at primal quickening points. My notes here is these are chakra points. These are sacred site points. These are where religious places are. They're built on top of ley lines. Often in these places, humanity erects monuments to its own folly. And so again, lots of huge structures around religion, statues around famous people who have become famous, often because they have power tripped other people, they have destroyed civilizations, they have done very inhumane things. And maybe it's not that good to have them up as figureheads anymore. Eventually, these merge into the landscape and everything comments upon everything else. That also reminds me of Planet of the Apes as well, the original one, where he sees the Statue of Liberty coming out of the sand and realizes that he hasn't gone to another planet, he's gone to the future. Very shocking for watching that. It's a really iconic scene. Being held between the Earth's wise presence and humanity's dim apprehension of what is really involved here. One side of the feeling nature is so intuitive and psychically astute that you are harboring advanced gifts that can serve Earth evolution in staggering ways. Another side of the feeling nature is contorted with reactions, judgments, and condemnations of the collective trends of humanity and of the weakness of the human flesh. These objections and rejections of the human scene abound upon the self and poison the psychic faculties. It's only when you heal and forgive and renounce the minor key irritable voice inside and out that the flood tide of burgeoning awareness of what is arising in this earth with all its ripples can wipe away the false structures and foster the new birth. The tuned in and blessings focused outlook and inlook. Okay, so that is really lovely. With Pisces energy, and this is the age that we're transiting out of, there's lots of things in there. So there are lots of shadow side stuff around not having good boundaries, getting out of your body instead of being in it in order to escape feelings that we don't like feeling, getting drunk in order to release inhibitions, in order to feel like we're having fun, but at the same time, it's toxic what we're putting into our body, and it's poison. So again, lots of things that we've been taught are treats by the corporate have been part of a pattern of creating an addictive audience to sell to. And whilst we're still stuck in this loop, in whatever level we're in it, we're still holding this old story. And again, if you think about a human being who's free of all of that, who's healthy, free of any toxic substances, toxic relationship on every level, this is absolutely foundation of Virgo, health, the 6th house, then we're free of that conditioned mindset. We don't have any need to change our beautiful being in order to connect to the earth and enjoy life. There's always a story connected if we're still doing the Piscean addiction. And Gabor Mate is an amazing source of going deeper with this, and his work on addictions and what that means for the individual, where that came from. Absolutely fantastic source of awareness around this. As we start to heal all of this and we start to get good boundaries and we start to come into our sovereignty, where we don't feel that we have to let people into our circle anymore who are toxic in some way, who don't respect us in some way, then we start to really flourish. And of course, we have to be brave to stop doing these old behaviors because they're really hardwired for many, many levels of genetics. And of course, the more that we learn about energy medicine, we realize that we can release all of these patterns and ways of being and release our reliance, dependence on shifting our mood by using intoxicants, and then start to make fundamental shifts as to creating joy and sweet experiences in our life instead. So it's all interlinked, it's all interwoven. And that links in today to the Mind card, which is Greater Cycles number 9. So number 9 in every 13-day process is a gateway point. We've done the first 8. So we've gone through a process of getting to the day before this, which is integration. And this is the 8th house. And this is what I focused on the Lionsgate workshop that I did, which is going through 8-8, which is the infinity symbol behind me. And the 8th house, in terms of the natural zodiac wheel, is Scorpio. In terms of when that is in the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, this is around Halloween time. And so this is, again, links into our ancestors in that way. And you see how all these cycles link in, whatever frameworks we've got going on around the planet in different cultures, they all hold the esoteric process of healing the old story. And they're really starting to be switched on now. So again, the more that you know about your code, the more you can really start to work with this conscious awareness. And that's what I do in my 52-day processes now. and it's been mind-blowing. Okay, so again, I'm going to put that on, and you can pause the video to look on a deeper level. This comes from my oracle cards, which are fantastic, a different language. Thread of grand design in the tapestry of light, on the loom of the great cycles, weave your pattern. Qualities: completion, expansion, mastery, larger cycles of time, fulfillment, and the grand design. 9 is the ray of greater cycles, the foundation of self, opening to the 4 points of measure and cycle. It's the grand design, the unfolding order of the larger pattern. With 9, you're being offered the embrace of longed-for completion. Fulfill your pattern, your circle, embody the mastery and wisdom you came to express. This ray asks you to be rather than try to be. Embody the wisdom of the larger cycles. Become the one who shines the light for others. You are the humanitarian whose being unfolds the larger pattern of the new world. In the grand cycle of time, 9 is a number of completion and expansion. What is it that you're being asked to complete? Can you see the clues to this cycle of completion? As you expand, shed old patterns that do not support your growth. Receive completion's fulfillment. You're poised on an arc of the grand cycle of time. In this cycle, time and space fold past. In this cycle, time and space fold, past and future merge, and lifetimes meld in completion. Join in the fulfillment of the mystery of the triple triangle by offering your mastery to be woven into the larger loom of reality. This also ties in to the goddess card of today. Don't know a lot about her. Again, Google her if you don't know about her. Raise your born on high, honouring the cycles of woman and the force of the maiden moon. As you guard the entrance to the cave, so guard and guide the cycles of the feminine within me. And as you work as a woman, if you have your mother still alive, your grandmother, your children, you change their cycle by changing your cycle, because you're all linked on a cellular level. And also today, this lovely card, which is the Empress, number 3. You can see there's so much symbology there on these amazing cards, Thoth cards. You can see the moon, you can see the swan, and many other things too. So I'm just going to share that information. And this is such a great resource as well. It's fantastic. So again, I always share Eli. And he is amazing what he's put into these. Absolutely fantastic. And I'll put the links under the video as well. So lots of things in there, as I said, to really look at the symbology, Fleur-De-Lis. This is key to alchemy, as is this. And we see how there are different orbs here, different splits. So she is the doorway. Now she's number 3, and in terms of the Mayan framework, so we've got 1, 2, 3 days. The first day is the initiation. That's Red Dragon in the original format. what the Great Mother is bringing us for our conscious evolution. The second day is White Wind, which is the new learning that's coming in, is that we're a spiritual being and how to embody that being, how to embody the goddess. And then the third day is becoming the conscious dreamer. So doing the combination of healing our survival issues, our ancestral issues, and any Neptunian delusions and illusions, any intoxication. So we become a clear channel, and then we start to work on a very different level of being the conscious dreamer. Now here, you can see he's put in the Kabbalah, and you've got the Tree of Life. You can see all the different cards and where they go. And he goes into the triangle again. You can see how all the cards click together. Venus, Aphrodite. So becoming loving to ourselves now. This is the key focus. This is the key mindset. Anything that isn't loving in our world to us, isn't respectful, has to go. The Lotus of Isis. It is what it is. Hey, so sorry about that. I had to take a little break there. So this is not going to flow seamlessly. Okay. So when this card turns up, reminded that the power to give love and receive love comes from deep within us and is our natural inheritance from the divine. Creative and intuitional, seductive happiness, idealistic and dynamic nature, abundant and nurturing nature. And so much more, as it showed on that thread. So if you want to know more, please do go and check it out, because it's well worth doing that. I'm also being harassed by a fly today as well, which has lived in this room for several days now. Again, that's a really amazing totem as well. And so this fly is choosing to buzz around and bringing that energy in. And let's have a look as that comes into the circle, just working with it, whatever it is. Okay, so I've just found this on the internet. And again, I just love working with this energy around intuitively and spontaneously going there with whatever comes up. You must pay attention to anything that's causing harm, malice, blame, or hate. Well, I wouldn't agree with that, I don't think. You don't have to kill it. Flexibility, advising you to adapt so you can thrive. Motivation, push you forward until you achieve your goal. Wealth and abundance. And often they're seen as a pest. I think that's what's coming up for me. They're seen as a pest, flying around, you know, and you're buzzing them away. And so again, there's that energy, isn't there, around what am I, you know, buzzing away. A connection with the spirit ancestors coming up here, Native American. So the big fly answers the questions sent by the elders. They're used in sacred ceremony and prayer for fertility for the Hopi women. Well, again, that's true around reading. They feed on rotting flesh and carcasses. And they can be an absolute nuisance in that particular area, but they serve a key purpose. And so many things that we eradicate in society generally, it's causing a huge imbalance because these beings are there as part of the bigger picture cycle of everything being needed to keep that wheel of life, that cycle of life going. And so it's a natural part of life is death, and then how we face that. There's lots of stuff coming up about that at the moment. Again, going back to the Virgo philosophy of purification and health, and how much energy that we put into aligning with that rather than staying with that childhood conditioned mindset that loves having treats. And so, you know, really getting to grips with that and understanding where that's coming from. As we move towards the end of this cycle, we are preparing to go into another one. And of course, we're going to be going into that one in a dark moon phase of letting go. Not specifically dark moon, because again, we're still in the full moon energy today. It lasts for around about 3 days of when the event actually occurs. And so we've got the next new moon is coming up on the 7th of September, and it's going to be in the early hours of the morning in the UK. The next 260-day cycle is going to be in the first decan of Virgo on the 1st of September. And that is really powerful too. So in terms of bigger picture cycles, I've just had a look today. I have just had my birthday in Leo. We had the last day of Leo yesterday at 29 degrees. And so I always feel that shift massively, moving away from fire into earth. And also in the UK, that's very much around coming to the end of the school holidays type of thing and going back to school. And Virgo really is about doing the work. So as we come down into this Virgo embodiment today, we're getting a reality check on how we're feeling, where we are in life, what's happening for us, and what we want to create now in the next 260-day cycle. Because looking at the bigger picture, I have been, just get my notes here, working these patterns out, which is something in the past I've never really done much of. I have posted things on my website, so you can check them out. And if you go onto the menu on flowwithjo.com and you open that up, and it'll be down in the bottom half where there are lots of resources there. I've written, I don't know how many blogs, lots, hundreds and hundreds, I would think, by now. And again, not being au fait with WordPress, when I changed to a different theme, it's altered a lot of the past ones. I hadn't realised that that was going to happen. And so apologies for that. I ain't going back changing them all though. So as I become aware of key ones, I have gone back and have changed some of them so that they aren't all over the place. But yeah, again, it's that my ignorance about WordPress, and somebody else who was savvy about that would have known about that. But we don't know what we don't know. Okay, so let's have a look at what's going to be happening. So on the 1st of September, we begin the new cycle in Virgo, and we begin it in a waning moon. So that's going to be the focus of the next 260-day cycle, is what needs to be released as to what mindsets have we got that create what feelings, what circumstances, and what do they relate to in terms of the old conditioned mindset that is no longer serving us and keeping us stuck. Then on the next cycle, we're going to be working with Taurus energy. So we're going from one earth to another earth. Taurus energy is about manifestation. And again, I've been working with women on new moon cycles in the past this year, and we set a powerful intention at the time of the Taurus new moon. By the time we go into the next cycle, we're going to be in North Node in Taurus as well. So this is good to know around where we're going. Isis energy, it is what it is, free of distortions, getting clear about how to be a conscious creator is essential in this next 260-day cycle, because then we're going to be seeing the manifestation of that one. A lot of the mind cycles work in 5 years. And again, so going back to today, this is in every 13-day cycle, we can see where we're mastering, we're squaring the circle in magical terms. We're using the first 4 days as a guide as to what we need to do to go to the next level in terms of our personal mastery. And so that by the time we come to the next 5-day completion, which is the manifestation, we'll have gone through a gateway, which is what we've just talked about, the number 9 gateway. We'll have healed our heart and cleared our energy body so we can go to the next octave. Otherwise, our body cannot hold that light. This is a deep, deep metaphysical, esoteric teaching. And it relates to sound as well, of course, because I'm talking about octaves. So again, do your own personal research if you don't know about this on an intellectual level, and that will not take you to the next octave. This is so important for people to understand. This is not an intellectual mindset on its own. The focus is on the emotional healing, and this changes the inner triple triangle. This changes the light body. This changes the Merkaba. This requires action as well. And fundamentally in psychology, people who understand how psychology works and the emotional mind will really understand this, is if we've got emotional storylines that around trauma that are still running, unless we heal these, we cannot change our mindset and our behavior on a deeper level, because this is the meta program that's underneath. This is a program that's running the human being, the holograph, and this is why it's so important to heal this space. And there are no shortcuts on this, and it's so worth it. When we finished the next manifestation, the Taurus, then we go in 2023, we're going to be going into the Aquarius. Okay, so these next 2 cycles of embodiment are going to really shift us into that Aquarian space that I talked about earlier on. So being emotionally intelligent, being emotionally free because we've healed, not because we've stuffed it down or we don't feel anymore, you know, or we've become very narcissistic, so we're not relating to anybody, you know, we've gone off into isolation as a way of coping. That's not going to serve the planet. It's about coming into clarity on a personal level, on every level. So by the time we get to 2023, if we've been doing the work in the next 2 cycles, then we're going to be in a very different space. Our holograph is going to be very different. In terms of the bigger picture cycle of the 13 moons, so from the 26th of July until yesterday, you had your initiation. That's what you're going to be working with for the rest of the 12 moons. And in this 28-day segment that we've begun today, you've got new information about your emotional story. This connects to the moon. Of course, the moon is our mother story. The mother holds the dream. Again, this ties in with Red Dragon. So everything that our mother line has experienced, we are embodying that. If we have done this inner work and done some healing and rewiring the amygdala, the emotional mind specifically, then we're living a different reality from our mother line. If we haven't, then we're still doing it and we're still in that trauma space. And so it's essential to get clear. It's essential to work with this focus as much as we can now, because it's a big pattern on planet Earth as a projection of that. And the great thing is, we've got everything in place. We can't ignore it anymore. It's there, it's huge. So each of us is where we are, basically, in terms of our mindset. And the more that we really start to focus on that now, the more that we are going to know what we're going to be working with over the next 260 days. So again, if you go into a bigger picture pattern and imagine yourself, by the time we get to that Aquarius energy in 2023, first of all, how old are you going to be then? So I'm 56 today, and so I'm going to be coming up to 60 at that point, which is my next Saturn return. And so I will be having my Saturn return at that time. And where do I want to be? Where was I when I had my first Saturn return? I was becoming a mother. And so that created huge shifts for me, just in the physicality of giving birth to another being through my body, and what that meant for me, and how that changed my life, and how that really connected me massively into unconditional love for my child. So in terms of how I'm seeing things repeat around health, especially around medical model and around what my son brought for me, which is new beginnings, which you can totally see in your chart. Now, this week, we've got some powerful energy, which you can go deeper with. All the ladies that I'm working with at the moment, I look at their 13-day cycle before it begins and find key things in their chart so that they know how the starry skies are going to be affecting them. this time for myself, I did my own solar return, which is the first time that I've ever done it for myself. I've had other people do that for me, and I wasn't really clear about doing that, didn't feel connected to that, but I have done that this time and it's been really wow. So in terms of what's happening this week, I'm just going to give a brief snapshot and show how that relates to my chart. Okay, so I'm going to refer to my notes on this as well. And so today, with this 0 degrees, it's how we get clear and come into ground zero, the Fool in tarot, of what mindsets have we created up to now that's brought us to where we are today, and what needs to shift. That Aquarius moon, what needs to go now in your life that's no longer serving you. So if you're living in a house with people who are not on the same vibe, let's say, don't have the same mindset, don't have the same view of the world. So let's say you're an awakened individual in terms of you see the world differently, you've woken up, you understand that you're on a spiritual path, just as a basic. Anybody who's still living on a mundane level, then you're not going to be gelling with those people, because people who are on a mundane level do different things. They have different viewpoints, they have different ways of being in the world. So that's going to create a clash by its very nature, because once you become spiritually aware and awake, you start realizing that a lot of your mindsets and behaviors have been, for want of a better word, sabotaging your human beingness, because they fit an old program of control that's been designed to keep the majority of people in a compliance mode, in a lesser power place. Now, some people will be aware of that on a personal development level, even if they're not awake to a spiritual journey. So on some level, you can gel with those people. But as you start to purify yourself and become clear of all toxins and toxic relationship, you will find often that you're scapegoated, because deep down we all know this stuff, remember, it's all in there for us. And so these are the secrets and the magic of all our ancestors that have been repressed and hidden in order to survive the Inquisition, in order to survive the witch hunts, in order to survive the darker side of humanity, let's put it that way. People who want to control other people and make money out of them without any care for their well-being, the narcissist pattern, which is running the planet right now. Okay, so I don't think there's anywhere where it's not running the planet right now, and we're at this huge turning point. So if you're around people who are doing old behaviors, that's not going to gel with you. And if you are still focusing on being kind and loving to everybody else outside of yourself at the expense of yourself, this is the key shift for you. And as tough as it is, as hard as it is to leave these old habits and these old worlds behind, that's what we have to do. Because if we don't, then things will just get harder and tougher until we pay attention and we make the move. The human being body does not lie, and it shows us where our energy is not flowing. It shows us where we're stuck, where we're hurting ourselves, where we're not healthy, where we're not fit. The mind will lie to us in order to try and keep us stuck in the comfort zone. And the comfort zone may be a very dangerous place, may be a very unhealthy place. But the emotional mind just focuses on keeping us alive and stopping us feeling fear, which is why one of the first mastery steps is understanding what fear is, where it comes from, and how to heal it and clear it. and that whenever it's coming up, it's always connected to an old story and event. And so the gift of that is once we know how to work with that, we get even more clear and we become free. So that is fundamental. That's what's happening today. Mastery of the human being. Know what your body's telling you. Might not be what your mind's telling you. And that your mind will often lie to you because it wants you to stay stuck in the old pattern, stuck in the old behaviours, stay with the tribe, because if you leave, you'll die. Now, that's a very old, fundamental, foundational point that has to be released, okay? Because Aquarius energy is the opposite of the tribal mindset of the majority of people. So tomorrow we've got Neptune opposes Mercury at 22 degrees of Pisces. That's the Mary Magdalene code. So again, this week is going to be really focusing on pushing that energy forward now to release all of these mindsets. So that's your Neptune, that's your red dragon, and it's also your white mirror, your holograph, and that's how they're linked together. So we want to be really focusing on getting clear, good boundaries and freedom from these addictions. And our home has to be our sanctuary, because our home is a reflection of us. So if you've got stuff going on in your home that doesn't gel with health, sovereignty, and wealth, that has to go. That's it. It is what it is. It's truth. On Wednesday, we have the moon is crossing Chiron. And so again, our wound is going to come up around who we are. And that's day 7, white resonant wizard day. Because we're in a 13-year cycle of white wizard, and we're in year 3 of it, creating alchemy, then all of our empowerment stuff is now coming up. And so whatever is resonating with magic, with empowerment, that's what we want to be moving towards, and healing and clearing whatever isn't resonating. And so white wizard, again, the asteroids, wherever Harmia is in your chart is key, and that's again what I've been focusing on with people, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Then we have got on Thursday, we've got Venus bringing light again with an opposition with Chiron, and we've got Mercury trining Pluto, and Mercury in Virgo trines Pluto in Capricorn. So again, this is bringing the mindset to the sacred feminine, the mindset of health, and getting into a really healthy, good mindset and habits in particular, and showing where we've taken on the shadow of Pluto in Capricorn. But also with Capricorn, we've got discipline, being the disciple, climbing the mountain, taking the small steps as well. So those tie in together. And we've also got a big energy around a trine with Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus this week. So we've got Mercury in Virgo, we've got Pluto in Capricorn, and we've got Uranus in Taurus. So this is like a crucible. You know, this is how we're really coming into a mold, a framework that we're going to be using over the next 260 days. So it might be, at the moment, it might be an ideal that we have. It might be a vision that we have for the future. And it's that we're going to create, again, birth the new earth through us. So if we're looking at, let's say, 2023 again, where are we going to be? What we're going to be doing? What's our home going to look like? What sorts of structures are we going to be doing in terms of, are we going to be growing our own food, for example, getting excited about that? Are we going to be in a group of people? Are we going to be teaching things? Are we going to be in a different part of the world? You know, getting really excited about that. What's your passion? What's your vision? What has come in for you during this Leo time? What sets your heart on fire? What makes you feel good? And, you know, the key to this is the flip side. What doesn't? What's got to go now in order for you to start taking those steps forward and come into shaping your destiny big time? On Friday, we have got the sun squaring black moon Lilith at 4 degrees. And so this is a gateway day. So yellow solar warrior. We're on day 9. And this is the last gateway in the 260-day cycle. So again, being the warrior on the heart path, what needs to heal in the heart? How are we being kind and loving to ourselves? That's the most important thing, because that's how we change everything else. And so we're working with this energy all the time. Now, Black Moon Lilith in Gemini is about the mindsets around disempowerment, for example, around fear, around what's keeping us stuck. Now, in terms of, I'm just going to show you my chart, which is my Sekhmet chart, which I did for Lionsgate and I did for a workshop then. Okay, so again, once you start to really know your code, or you have, you know, even if you don't know your code, if you're working on this level, so for example, the people that I'm working with, I am helping them see how to read their charts and where the key significant numbers are. So Black Moon Lilith at 4 degrees. So whatever you've got at 4, and also the 4th house, we can talk about as well. And the Mayan sign, the 4th house, is yellow seed. So it's the masks that we wear, it's the coping mechanisms, it's how we've got so far that's protected us, but they're not going to take us to the next level, which is thriving. We're wanting to do all these things now so that we come into a real thriving model. And these frameworks give us the model. This is the amazing thing about them. It's just so amazing. So for me, first of all, Gemini at 4 degrees is here for me. This is what's known as my IC. This is my stairway to heaven. This is how I see it. And so shaping that stairway to heaven takes me to Sagittarius at 4, which is in my 9th house, but takes me into my 10th house, which is the manifestation of my heart's desire, which for me is to heal. I love philosophy and I love traveling and I love meeting open-minded people where I can learn and share and be part of a community with. This is fundamental to me because I have Aquarius rising at 0 degrees. And so it's fundamental. So as you can see, I've got other 4s there. I've got a Lilith in Aquarius, which I absolutely love that energy at 4 degrees, the structure of being the contrary Mary in the New Age and not being aligned with most of the hive mind. And so this 4 degrees is going to be affecting that. So again, these are all at key points for me. So where these are, these angles are foundational to our structure. So this one here, where we come in, how we incarnate, how we're born at 0. And so there in my 1st house, this is all what my energy is about. I'm not going to go into that too deep. But Pisces is in there as well. And So again, when I get to the age of 4, going to school, for example, that I talked about before, and how this starts to create a different mindset in some ways to what I learned in my birth family. A lot of that, I have to say, for me wasn't very positive. It was a bit of a shock on many levels, going into that different space with a whole different mixture of people as well. A lot of different people to what I was used to being around, and created a lot of trauma for me because of that, and because of those different people. And key to my life work, of course, as well. So there you can see that how I shift that mindset. Both my parents, Geminis, and my mastery there is Jupiter in Gemini at 25, which is the same degree as my sun in Leo at 25, which adds to a 7, which is blue hand, which is my sign, blue solar hand. I'm a number 9. And so taking things to the next level, taking the bigger cycles, that's fundamental to my path. And then taking that to the stairway to heaven of manifestation. And so the structure of that there. And also the other number 4 is how may I, however we pronounce that, I don't know. Give me a heads up, anybody of you know. And so that is in my 7th house of relationship, which is the busiest house that I have, really. Lots in there. And so the structure of that. And again, so I'm going to be doing a workshop about this in the first segment, in the first 52-day process. It's going to be part of that, so we can have a look at what we're working with and our survival issues and our mindsets. And so if you're interested in knowing about any of this, the 52-day process, you don't have to join that to be part of the workshop either. So I'll be posting more information about that in the next few days. So then looking at these codes in terms of the sigils, they're called, and again, you can do this on a channeled work, or you can do this on a deeper level with Dane Rudyard as well, and showing the actual constructs of the deeper psyche. His work is just totally amazing. So in terms of sharing that, so again, to okay, so doing the techie stuff again. So I'm only going to read out the Gemini at 4 degrees because this affects everybody. An island just visible off the coast. When the future is alive, all of its many dimensions flourish in a world away from the commonly mapped out standard territory. The inward twin is given free rein to picture and dream into, and even open the space towards what can be and shall be in more vibrant worlds to come. The outward twin carries on as ever in the accustomed role of maintaining the status quo. But so little energy is given to this one, and so much life force is funneled into sensing new worlds and exploring all the amazing places which these new worlds spark on the inside of the soul, timelessly and authentically. This is just so wow, isn't it? You know, it's a very challenging time, and so we see in the outside world, and sometimes we have to behave differently in the outside world in order to survive, because there's so much scapegoating energy going on at the moment. And so the more that we focus on how to keep ourselves resourced, connecting to nature, limiting our exposure to negative propaganda and things designed to take us out of our center, to keep us in fear, whenever we feel resourced enough to go into that fear ourselves and see what that is triggering within us. Where does that storyline come in for us? As we clear that, what mindset allowed that to be created in our ancestors that we've taken on, in our culture that we've taken on, and what mindset do we need to adapt now to focus on coming into sovereignty, health, wealth on a personal level. And often that's challenging to begin with, because remember, we've got so much stuff there on all levels that's holding us in an old space. And so, again, essential to know how to do these frameworks of healing. The new moon in Virgo on the 7th of September is going to be in the first 13-day process. It's going to be on day 7 of it, which is blue resonant hand. And so that is going to be fundamental to shaping our destiny. And it just blows me away, this stuff. I'm so glad that I trusted my gut in terms of doing the Mayan calendar and surrendering to what the universe was showing me. My mind at that time didn't really get it. I still don't get so much now. I know that every time I allow myself to surrender to not knowing and to trusting the universe and trusting myself as well by healing all my previous bad judgments, bad choices that were coming from a very unhealed place. We're coming from a very unconscious space. We're coming from a big fear space. And, you know, part of me at times still struggles with that space. And then I just do more tapping and I get into as much clarity as I can, knowing that we're all a work in progress. We're all here to do the journey. And we're not going to immediately become clear and free of everything and, you know, all at once and become this super, super sparkly, different person, because that's not how it works. And there's no shortcuts. We each have to do this process each day and work our way towards the light by healing the shadow story so that we embody it. And anything, any template that's getting in the way of us knowing that we are the divine universe, that we are God and Goddess incarnate, that we have the ability to access all that ever is, ever was, ever will be, and that we're guided, that we have our ancestors on board, that we have our higher selves in whatever way, all there helping us on our journey, and that it will become clear as we become clear every day. So I wish you an amazing last few days of this cycle. And if you want to know more about anything to do with cosmic codes and how to heal, how to join me for the next 260-day cycle. Each one will be split into 52 days. I am limited around how many women I can take. So please get in touch soon if you want to go ahead, especially if I haven't worked with you before, because I will need to do lots of code for you so that I have a bigger picture awareness and then start to be able to share that with you in a way that you understand, in a language that works for you on a practical, grounded level. So lots of love. Have a great week. Remember, when Black Moon Lilith comes in, that's going to show you some key information as to your old story, so you can be free and clear. Lots of love.